Hello everybody, welcome back to the Yorkshire Bike Mechanics YouTube channel. I hope you're all good and you are having a good week. Today's video we're going to cover off a simple bike fit, okay, a really straightforward bike fit, something that you can do on your own or with a friend if you need someone to hold your bike up for you. All you need is a plumb bob and a piece of string. That's all the equipment that you're going to need to be able to do this. So, but the other thing to remember is this is simply a guide, okay? It's not an exact science because my legs might be different to your legs, arms might be different to yours, and your body might be a little bit different to everybody else's. But it will give you a guide whether you're wondering whether your bike's in the right position for you or it's set up correctly for you. So it's a simple tutorial to help you to do it, okay? So let's crack on. The first thing that we need to do with your bike fit is we need to look at your saddle, okay? Now with your bike flat on the ground, okay, on a level surface, you need to make sure that your saddle is level also, okay? Now we can step back and look over the top, and looking over the top usually gives us a good idea whether your saddle's actually level or not. If you're unsure, then get a small spirit level or something like that. I think on a lot of phones now there's an app that you can use your phone as a level as well, so you could do that. But the idea is that to start with, your saddle needs to be perfectly level when your bike's flat on the ground. Now that we've got a saddle level or horizontal, the next thing we need to do is we need to make sure it's at the right height for us. Now if you've got a dropper post, this needs to be at fully extended at this point, okay? If you've not got a dropper post, it is a standard post, then obviously leave it where it is. We can determine where it needs to be after this next step. But if you've got a dropper post, make sure that's fully extended. So what we need to do is we need to jump on the bike. So we're sat on the bike now, okay, this is where you might actually need a friend to give you a hand to hold your bike up steady, okay? So I'm sat on the bike. What we need to do is we need to make sure that the saddle is at the right height for us. We've got us dropper post, it's extended to the full height and it's clamped in the normal position, okay? So what we need to do is the right hand foot needs to be right at the bottom. So when your foot is on the pedal at its normal position that you'd normally to ride in, then the saddle needs to be in such a position that you've got a slight bend in your knee, okay? I don't know whether you can see that, you probably can't. But if I were to straighten my leg now, it slightly lifts my bum off the saddle. So the idea is when your foot is right down at the bottom, as far as it'll go, and you're sat normally on your bike, you have a slight bend in your knee. And when you go and straighten your leg, when it's at the bottom, it lifts the saddle, lifts your bum off the saddle. If you've got yourself in that position where you're able to do that, then your saddle is at the right height. Now, obviously, with your saddle, if you've got a dropper saddle, then obviously you need to make sure that the actual post is lifted up or lifted down in the frame to achieve that. So you need to be able to push yourself from the normal riding position and lift your bum off the saddle only by about an inch, if that, okay? Now when you've got that, when you've got that saddle at that right height, that gives you the optimum power for your climbing, okay, and your general riding. So this is your normal riding position, and it gives you the most benefit from the power from your muscles to transfer into the pedal and obviously through the back wheel. So just to recap then, my foot's right down at the bottom, I'm pushing up with my ball of the foot and my saddle is just lifting, my bum is just lifting off the saddle, just enough so I can move my bum backwards and forwards on saddle. Once you've achieved that, that's the saddle at the right height. Now we've got the right saddle height, what we need to do is we need to establish the right position for your knee in relation to the saddle and the pedal. Okay, so how we do this is where his plumb bob comes in. Okay, so what we need to do is take his plumb bob, okay, like that. Okay, and we need to hold the plumb bob at around about, give it about a foot and a bit, about 12 or 13 inches. Okay, and then what we need to do is, if you take your right hand and you put your finger over your knee on the kneecap, just below the kneecap you'll feel a little dimple. Okay, that's the position that we need to be measuring from. But also what we need to do is get your pedal stroke so the crank arm is 90 degrees from the floor. Okay, so this is the right position. The right position that you can see now is the position that you need to be using to measure from. Okay, not any other position. Okay, not at the bottom. A right hand side, just about 90 degrees from there. So where you've actually felt that little dimple in your leg, this is where we need to be putting the plumb bob. So if I get with my fingers, if I just stick that in there, in the dimple of my knee, okay, and if I sit normally on the saddle, what I'm looking for is when that plumb bob is swinging there, it should be directly above the axle of your pedal, okay, at the centre of your pedal or the axle. When you're pressing that plumb bob in that dimple of your knee and your foot is 90 degrees from the floor, okay, so this is your power stroke effectively. And that plumb bob needs to be straight above the axle of your pedal. So to achieve that, what we need to do is we need to move the saddle backwards and forwards. Okay, if you remember, we've got the horizontal position. Now what we need to do is move your saddle backwards and forwards to make sure that plumb bob is over the centre of the axle. So if you can imagine, if I move my saddle forward, then that plumb bob's going to move forward. If I move my saddle backwards, then it's going to move backwards. Okay, so move your saddle backwards and forwards to make sure that that plumb bob is directly over the centre of the axle. Okay, so please remember, this is actually a guide. Okay, everybody's different. You might want your bike in a slightly different position, but if you start by doing this, ride your bike, and then you can obviously move it and tweak it the way you need it to go. Okay, so that's that. So the next step is to establish as arm length on his handlebars. So what we're trying to achieve is, when you sat normally on your bike, when the seat post is fully extended, is you should have a bent elbow, a slightly bent elbow. Okay, now some people have said that they're suffering from pins and needles in the hands, numbness in the fingers. Some of them report that it's just in the right hand. Some people say it's in both or just the left. Now the reason why that happens more often than not is that you're restricting the blood flow to your fingers by putting too much pressure on your palms of your hands. It's easier said than done not to do that, but particularly when you're belting down somewhere and you're holding on for grim death, and you're holding on to bars as if your life's going to end in a few minutes. But having said that, during a normal riding position, what you need to be able to do is be able to relax on your bars and have that slight bend in your elbows. That's the best position for your back, and it's the best position for your arms. Now the way we achieve that is you can actually buy some riser bars that actually lift it up a little bit more. You'll find that on your stem, if you've got a little bit of room under your stem where your fork tube comes through the frame, you might be able to put another spacer on there to lift it up a little bit if you feel that you need to come up. You can use a longer stem if you feel that you need to go over a little bit. There's quite a lot of different things you can actually do to achieve that position. But having said that, again, it is a guide. this position that we're trying to achieve wouldn't suit everybody. Okay, but use it as a base to start off from, and then you can just tweak things as you go along. So we've looked at seat height, we've looked at making your saddle horizontal, we've looked at making sure that your foot and your knees in the right position on your pedal and how to achieve that. We've looked at trying to adjust your cockpit so you actually make sure that you're getting slightly bent arms when you're riding, and a combination of all those will lead to a standard, reasonable, decent position while riding on your bike. So I think that basically covers that off. It's a very, very simple bike fit that anybody can do at home. Use it as a guide. If you're uncertain of what position that you're sat in on the bike at the moment, use this tutorial as a guide to establish where you kind of should be on your bike, and then go from there. If you would like a proper scientific bike fit, then you can actually go ahead and get that done. There are companies that specialise in getting you on your bike that have a lot more equipment to measure whereabouts you are on your bike. And that would be particularly helpful if you're a road cyclist and you ride such a lot on your bike and you're doing loads and loads of miles, or if you've got like a journey coming up, a big ride coming up, and you want to make sure that you sat on your bike right. It could be that you're suffering with back problems, in which case I would recommend that you go and get a proper bike fit on a bike fit machine. There's a few companies that do it, depending on where you are. It will cost you, but if you spend a lot of time on your bike and you're doing a lot of miles on your bike, then it's certainly worth it. But this will give you a general idea of where you should be on your mountain bike or your road bike. So with that, I'm going to say total pip.